Okay.
5,
4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, guys, and welcome back. Or if it's your first time here, welcome to our channel. Welcome to Grief Uncensored, you guys. I'm Yako.
And I'm Julia. We believe that your grief is your own and no one can tell you what to do with it. But we're thankful that you're here and that you found us. Be sure to follow us on all of our other platforms. Follow us on TikTok. We also have an Instagram at Grief Uncensored Podcast. We have a series called Feature Your Loved One where you can send us photos of your loved one with a caption and we'll post your loved one in honor of them. We also have a Facebook group of over 100 people in our 20s dealing with the same things we are. And lastly, our YouTube.
Yes, so if you're a visual person and you want to catch this video and watch it as we're doing it, go check that out. It should be on YouTube at griefuncensored.com or Grief Uncensored Podcast. Yeah.
Right.
It's been a minute since we've done an episode just because, life has gotten in the way and we've been a little busy.
Yes.
We've just been all over the place. So, yeah, like I said, that's just because life, was lifing.
Yeah.
And this episode, as you can see, we have a special guest. It's our first guest. We have Tessa Thompson joining us today. Woo!
Welcome, Tessa.
Yeah, and we mentioned our Instagram feature where we do feature our loved one, and she was on there too. Her dad was featured on there as well.
Yeah. So welcome, Tessa. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you for coming and joining us today.
I'm very excited to be here.
So, yeah, just tell us a little bit about you, your age, and a little bit about your grief journey.
Okay. I'm Tessa. I am 21 years old. Yeah, right? Yeah. 21, gonna be 22. Time is passing too quickly. My dad died when I was 12, and he passed away from cancer. He got sick when I was in 6th grade, I think. We found out he had a brain tumor, and basically they were like, don't worry, like, it's benign, like, it's just a brain tumor, we're gonna remove it and everything's gonna be good. And once they did the surgery, they realized that it was not a benign non-cancerous tumor, it was cancer, and it had already spread to his brain, so he was really, really sick, but we didn't know.
Wow.
So he had his surgery in December. We found out that he had cancer I think December 23rd, so right before Christmas, and then within 7 months he deteriorated really quickly. Went from being, he used to run, he used to work out all the time, he was living life, he was good, and then he couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't do anything by himself till July 4th of 2013. That's when he passed away. So, yeah. But I'm just excited to be here and talk about him because I love getting to talk about him.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't get to talk about him enough.
We're happy to give you that platform and the space to feel comfortable to do that. And we're really excited to just kind of get your insight and honestly just chat,
Yeah. We're talking grief, we're talking dad. I
Yeah.
have lots to say. I always have a lot to say.
This is so complex, especially because you were 12 when it happened, which how did you react, I guess, or how did you what was that like when it happened?
Yeah. I'm thinking way back to those days. Okay, so when I was 12, when he got sick, I think I definitely didn't understand what was going on. I was too young to fully I knew he was sick, and then as things started to progress, I knew it was serious. And I don't think anyone ever sat me down and was like, okay, he's going to die. But I maybe 4 months in, I was like, oh, okay, I know my dad's gonna die, there isn't any getting better from this. And so that time period of him being sick was just chaotic, I guess, because there was so much happening, but at the same time, not really, because that was the only, I don't remember what I did 6th grade. I don't remember being with my friends or playing. I just remember that year of, like, his last year of life and, like, what it was like for him being sick. But, like, he stayed at our house, like, most of the time. Like, the whole time he was sick. My mom, like, really didn't want him to be in, like, a care facility or a hospice. She wanted him to try to stay home as long as she could. So it was me and my sister closest in age to me, Brenna. She was there. And we, like, were the ones that lived in the house with my mom and my dad. And we had, like, people coming in and out all the time.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was, like, I started to grieve before he had died because, like, it was, like, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at first it was just kind of, like, this slow, like, starting to accept that this is going to happen and being 12 and being, like, what the hell? Like, what is life without him? How is this real? So he died July 4th, and then I started 7th grade in August.
Ooh.
And that, like, I've struggled with mental health since then for various other reasons, but I have to say that was the most, like, overwhelming depression I ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, and middle school is, like, a really
middle
intense,
school's already, like, terrible.
Yeah.
It was starting that year that I was, like... And everyone, I'm from Iowa. I don't know if I said that. I'm from Des Moines. So, like, it's
small
not...
town vibes.
It's small. So, like, everyone knew. And, like, just having people look at me in the hallway and say things to me. And my first day of 7th grade, I heard this girl across the room whisper. She was like, oh, is that the girl that's dad died? And I was like, oh, that's me. And it's, like, now being 21 and looking back, like, it's hard to find people my age that understand grief now, but being 12, a lot of my peers hadn't even lost grandparents or anything.
Even still, some of our friends' grandparents are alive.
It's insane.
Yeah, so it was just, like, trying to navigate freaking 7th grade life changes.
Yeah, body changes.
Yeah,
all of it.
just
puberty and fucking death don't go hand in hand.
Literally, no, that was not a good time.
But
yeah, I can't imagine, like, all these people, like, whispering. I can imagine, actually, no, I can imagine that, but not for myself, but I can imagine that happening just because that was, like, the energy of my middle school experience, too. Like, people would just be, like, whispering.
Yeah.
And, like, if something like that happened, everyone would know
You don't want the
about it.
spotlight on you in that way. And
No.
I mean, mostly you don't want the spotlight on you at all in middle school. You just want to get through, without being seen.
Right.
But, like, to have the spotlight on you for that reason, I mean, it's...
Yeah, it definitely made things a lot harder. And I think because I felt that pressure of, like, everyone, like, looking like, oh, are you okay? I, like, wanted to be so, like, normal. Like, I wanted to fit in so bad that, like, I could be, like, 1 minute sobbing at home, like, I don't know how my life is going to go on, my parent isn't here. And the next time, like, at the Friday night football game, I'm like, what's up, guys? Like,
yeah, because you just didn't want people to, like, actually see that.
I think I wanted, like, I wanted someone to talk to so badly that could understand, but knowing that no one did, no one my age did, it was like, I just don't, like, it's not worth conversating about.
Yeah.
Right.
It's awkward.
Because
It just be awkward.
It's kind of like, even now, like, there's certain people that I avoid bringing those things up with because I'm like, you're about to say something really insensitive or triggering, so why go put myself through that? Let's just avoid that.
I feel like I would just hear a lot, like, oh, I know how it is. My grandpa died.
Oh, yeah, at that age especially.
My grandma died. And, I mean, no hate to, like, any friends I had. Like, we're all 12 and they're trying to support it. But it was just, like, I couldn't hear that. Like, I couldn't hear anyone compare their grief to mine, and I didn't know. It was really, his death was really sudden, so it was just, like, I barely knew what was going on, and so to try to talk to people about it, it wasn't a thing. But, so I would say that first year was, like, really, that was probably the worst. Like, I didn't leave my room. My mom always says that first year I didn't leave my room. I would go to school, I'd come home, and I would close the door, and I would, like, sit in my room all night, and I would go to bed, and I'd get back up, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, what about for dinner?
I'm just, like, doing what I can. I'm sneaking around. I'm trying to avoid my mom. I'm trying to avoid sis. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just think that year was, like, really lonely, I guess.
Yeah.
And I would say that for the same thing, like, the next year. The first 2 years, I just kind of felt lonely in my grief, and it was too overwhelming, and I wasn't ready to deal with it. And me being a child, I think everyone was, like, had, like, gloves on, like, oh, like, don't do this, like, don't upset her, like, we don't, is she okay, what's wrong, like, what can we do? And I felt like everyone was trying to, like, make it better, and I just wanted them to leave me alone, and treat you like regular. Yeah, I just wanted, like, I would rather have just avoided it at that point, I feel like, because it was too much. And then freshman year, I would say, is when I started to, like, I was really depressed, and I didn't know, like, who to talk to, and that just, like, led to, like, chaotic behavior of, like, acting out and being a teen, but it was on a whole other level, like, and I had so much anger, and I didn't realize it. Yeah. And so I was, like, I was doing all these different bad things. Don't do those things. I was, like, partying, basically, like. Yeah.
That's not bad. That's just regular things.
Yeah. High school things.
But no, it does feel bad and chaotic because, like, you're also, like, 14 drinking alcohol. I mean, we weren't actually, guys.
Yeah.
We were,
Allegedly,
yeah. But no, I definitely relate to that angsty teen behavior.
Yeah, it's like an angsty teen, and then you have the loss behind you. That's kind of, like, propelling it.
Right. Yeah, and just, like, you know, drinking to forget, to escape, to feel normal. Yeah. Then I'm angry and I need to keep drinking because.
Oh my god, yeah.
And it was just a pattern that lasted for a while until probably, like, the end of my freshman year. My mom had been, like, trying so hard to get me to get it together, and then finally she was like, okay, that's it, like, very least you're going to therapy, like, you gotta start therapy, that's what you gotta do. Yeah. And I started therapy when I was 15, and that was, like, the thing that, like, saved me, I guess, was because I finally felt like I had somewhere to express how I felt without, I wouldn't say judgment of others, but yeah, maybe judgment, and then also just, like, I can't stand, and even to this day I'm this person, but if I'm, like, talking about his death and how it made me feel, and someone's like, I'm so sorry, like, I'm just so sorry, and I'm like, no, we don't have to just, like, you don't have to be sorry, like, I could just talk about how I feel, and that could be, you don't have to be sorry, but it felt like that was the first place I could talk about how I felt without someone trying to fix it, like, even though that's what I was there for, like, it didn't feel like she was trying to, like, fix me, I guess. So that was when things started to get better, and I went to therapy weekly up until I moved to LA 2 years ago, so I saw the same therapist, and we talked about my dad a lot.
Wow, you saw the same therapist that whole time?
Yeah.
Damn. So they saw you
my girl Angie.
Yeah, your girl, shout out Angie.
Shout out Angie.
Damn. I need myself an Angie, to be honest.
She's a real one, and it was, like, really good to go there, because I got there, and she was like, we could spend the whole hour not talking. Like, if you don't want to, you just have to sit here. Like, if you don't want to talk, that's fine. When you're ready to talk, we'll talk. And probably, like, the first couple of weeks, I didn't say much. And then more and more, I just started to say more. And started to process all the feelings that came with it, because it wasn't just sadness. I think a big thing for me was I was really angry. I was angry at my family for things that went down, and I was angry, which is, like, can't say it, but I was angry at my dad. I was really angry at him for a while. And so I had to process that and, like, start to come to terms that I felt this way, because I think I felt bad about being angry, like, I shouldn't. shouldn't be angry. Like, someone just died. Like, I should be just grateful we're all here.
Yeah. But it's hard because you feel like he
yeah.
left you behind.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. My dad was the best, and he loved all of us so much. And me being the baby of the family, he, like, didn't want me to see him sick. So he stayed with us the whole time, like I said, when he was sick. So he didn't want me to, like, see him. So if I came in the room, he'd be like, she has to leave. Like, she needs to go. And he would often, like, tell me to get out of the room. Like, he didn't want me to be there. He didn't want to talk to me. And he knew he was going to die. And so in my head, I was like, well, he should have, you had time. He did have time that he could have sat me down and been like, hey, I love you, this, that, the third. But I had to come to terms with that I can be angry about that, but also he was a human being dealing with his own stuff.
Right.
And he did the best he could. And so through that, I was, like, able to forgive him and make peace with the way things went down. Dealing with that in therapy helped a lot, but for a long time, I think I was just definitely surviving off anger. Just always looking for a fight, always looking to cause some kind of a havoc for no reason other than I was just mad at the whole world because my dad was dead.
Yeah. Were you ever able to get, like, a proper goodbye before he
No.
passed?
So when he was in hospice, he went to hospice maybe, like, a month before he died. He hadn't wanted me in the room for so long that I wouldn't go once he was there. But now I'm so grateful. I feel like I have had my own goodbye with him not even being here.
Right.
And I feel like we're at peace. And we both know what happened and how he felt about me. And even though I wish he would have had a chance to tell me those things, it doesn't change that that's how he felt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about how you, like you said, like, you had your own kind of way even after he passed, like, to come to have an agreement, like, how you kind of talk to him, if you will.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I love about my family is, like, right away, from the jump, like, when he passed, like, we were all very connected and would talk about, like, what he loved to do and what made him him. And so every time we were sad, my mom would be like, you need to go do something that your dad loved to do, and that's how you're going to feel close to him. And so I really, like, it became, like, a ritual kind of thing where it was, like, his birthday, Father's Day, the day he died, like, I go out and I do the stuff that he loved to do. And, like, he loved to go to freaking Dairy Queen and get chocolate shakes, and that's what we would do. Or he loved cars, and we'll go to a car show on Father's Day or something, because that's what he loved to do. The music he listened to, like, when I'm sad, I just listen to that, and it makes me feel connected to him. And so doing those things, I felt like brought us closer.
Yeah.
And I think really that, like, the most healing part was just realizing, like, it doesn't matter how death happens, like, the process leading up to it, whatever, what you shared is, like, it doesn't go anywhere. So even if they had done it perfectly, even if we got a proper goodbye, or we had talked for every day for 3 months and he told me how much he loved me, it wouldn't have been a perfect goodbye. Like, you make those yourself, I feel like. So
yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, that is. And also, like, the goodbye is still gonna hurt just as bad, even if you have that proper
it wouldn't
moment.
have changed it. So I guess
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I just try to do things that connect us, where I feel connected to him. And I think the biggest thing was there's just, like, almost shame around grief, where I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I could say the most happiest thing about him. I could be like, my dad had a great smile. His smile lit up the room. And someone will be like, oh, honey, it's okay. And I'm like,
it was a good thing.
Like, I'm not sad, so don't stop bringing this sad, energy when I talk about him. And I've really had to tell people in my life that, because especially, like, friends that haven't experienced grief, that's something they say, and family too. And I had to be like, if I want to talk about him, then
Yeah.
I'm happy. Like, it doesn't have to be sad, and he deserves to be remembered happily. So please don't sit
Yeah.
there and make me feel sad for sharing about him. Because I
True.
think they make it so you feel sad about talking. Like, they put this, like, energy where it's like,
Right.
oh, you feel bad about it, so then you don't talk about him.
Exactly.
And I want to talk about him, and I want to talk about him all the time, and I want to tell you what a great person he was, because that's all I have. So
Right.
it wouldn't be fair if I was closing that off to make you comfortable, or
Exactly.
freaking Sally next door comfortable. Like,
Period.
like
Yeah,
that's not...
That's exactly.
That's
true.
honestly a key takeaway, and I feel that even in my short time with my experience with grief too, is like there's people that just are say something like oh, or they just
Or silent.
so uncomfortable
Oh
and
my gosh,
silent,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like okay,
It's true.
Where do we go from here?
Like
Yeah.
I could literally say like, oh my god, that like my mom loved that, and then everyone's like looking away, and everyone's just silent, literally
Yeah.
silent, and I'm just like, okay, like the best advice I could say is just like act as if you're talking about your mom who's still alive. So like if you say, oh, my dad had the best smile, I'd be like, oh my god, like I love to see a picture.
Yeah.
Or just be like, yeah, she does, or yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Like that's what you want to respond. Like the
Yeah.
silence and the oh honey, I'm so sorry. Like
Yeah.
again, like I'm just reiterating what you said. It makes it so you don't want to share anything because
Yeah.
then they're putting a whole sadness around it.
Yeah. Just to add shame to that is not...
Yeah,
it's not, it's not fair, and it's not fair to him, and it's not fair to anyone that love. Like my love for him, because that's what grief is. It shouldn't be a shameful thing, and so he was only alive 12 years of my life. I only have so many pictures of him, and so I find myself constantly reposting the same pictures because I'm never getting more. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I bet people are like, this is so annoying. She's posted this photo 92 times. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
who the hell cares?
Yeah, it's your favorite
Like,
photo.
like,
Fuck
I
it.
love this picture,
Yeah.
and if anyone's annoyed with me posting every single Father's Day and his birthday
Yeah.
and any other day, please stay mad, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
if you love someone, you want to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I want him to be present in my life as much as he can, even though he's not here. And as like losing a parent has really made me realize like everything that I know about my dad and I have is all he left. And so I guess that's something else. I don't know if I would ask you guys that, if that like has changed anything for you. Like I document things a lot more because I think about the people in my life that might see them.
For sure.
Especially like having kids or something. I'm like, all the time we're like out shopping. I'm like, oh, my kid's gonna think this is so cool in like 30 years. Like, I need to get this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even if like I could download every photo I've ever taken like since I've had a phone, I feel like it would still never be enough. Like I could have endless photos of my mom since she was a teenager, and like I don't know. I have a lot. Like I really do have a lot.
Yeah.
But even still, like I was just recently like putting all my photos in Google Photos, and I was just like, ugh, this is not enough. But you're right. Like I do often think now lately like how I want to document things and like have things, because what if
Yeah.
and what if my kids don't get to see me past.
Even if you die and you're 70 or
Yeah.
you're 100,
Yeah.
there's like someone's still gonna miss you and want to know about you. And if all I'm leaving, like if all they're gonna know is what I leave, like I want to leave
A lot.
a lot.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
That's true.
That's something I think definitely changed me from before grieving. I mean, I was 12 though,
Yeah.
so what did
Yeah.
what did I know?
Yeah.
Is there anything else like that you think really changed you as a person, like that grief really like influenced maybe like how you just view things or just who you are now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just your whole outlook on life changes because you realize that time is short.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially being 12 and knowing, like, oh, you don't freaking live forever. Like,
Yeah. That's a really young age to realize
Too,
that.
yeah.
Because that happened to me at 21. I'm like, oh my god, like life can literally be taken away at that 1 second. And like I always knew that. I know that life is precious. I've heard it forever. Like, oh, live life to the fullest because life is too short. Life is short, that's just, like, a saying overall. But, like, you never really believe it until it happens to you, and then you really understand it. And you're like, okay, actually, though, no matter, like, you never know when the last day is.
Yeah. It could be any time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say the appreciation for life it gave me, and then maybe just, like, grieving people. I feel like everyone has, like, they're so scared, and it's like, oh, I don't want to say that. I love talking to grieving people. I'm like, if there's one room I should be in, it's with a bunch of people that are grieving, because why... All you are is sad because of the love you had for this person. Like, the only way that I feel like that, the best thing to do with that is to share about it and talk about it and hold space for people that have lost someone and share about your own experiences. And I don't know, I just love, that's why, like, seeing your guys' podcast, I was like, oh my god, I want to be friends.
We agree. We think it's so important to...
Yeah, I mean, that's literally how we became friends, too, is, like, feeling...
It was so funny, because when I was here, like, a couple hours ago before we started recording, I was, like, thinking about how literally the first or maybe even second time we met in person, like, we sat down right here on this floor and spilled the damn tea for, like, 3 hours about every single thing about our grief journeys. Like, someone who I have not known for a long time.
Yeah, literally, I told
we spilled everything.
Yeah, I told you things I haven't told anyone. Maybe it was just like I met you like one time before, and I'm telling you about.
Yeah, and we found after that night, like, is when we kind of started thinking about the podcast, but also, like, we found a power that was, like, sharing very vulnerably, like, things that I didn't tell anyone else. And obviously our podcast grew from that idea, but, like, I think we really did find a lot of power in sharing our story.
Yeah, and strength in numbers too, which is like a true thing that we've experienced through this podcast.
Which is so nice, because I was just thinking on the way here, like, when I was 12 and I'm grieving, I so desperately was like, I just wish there was one person my age that I could sit and talk to about this that would, like, get it.
Yeah.
And that could share it. Not that I wanted anyone to be able to relate, but at the same time, like, I wish I had that. And so I was like, if I had had your guys' podcast when I was 12 and I was so depressed and lonely, like, what a difference that would have made to know that it's, like, okay to share about those things.
Yeah, and also it's so interesting to hear that perspective too, because our podcast is definitely for a little bit of older audience, but it is like still
young adults.
Yeah, still young enough. I mean, still old enough to
understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Death affects everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. No, I love that you guys do this, because even now, like, I sit and listen, and, like, sometimes I'm 21-year-old me listening, but sometimes I'm 12-year-old me listening.
True.
And I'm like, oh, I needed to hear that when I was in 7th grade.
Wow, that's really sweet.
Aww. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, I guess, is because since Father's Day was literally on Sunday, how has, like, experiencing the holidays, the big days, how has that changed?
Okay, I know everyone says they all suck.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be really honest with you. I think the first, like, 4, 5, they suck astronomically worse than here I am 9 years out. Especially the first, like, 2 or 3 were really, like, crippled. I couldn't look at anyone even, like, with their dad. That would have made me like lose it.
Literally.
Like you saying you deleted Instagram yesterday. Like I got it. I was like, oh yeah, no worries, that's why I messaged you on Mother's Day and you on Father's Day, because I was like, those freaking blew. Like it really was, like, in your face.
Yeah.
But
every little thing is
especially with social media, bro. Everyone wants to post their mom. Everyone's supposed to their dad.
Even though
I found that even outside of social media, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay off social media. I'm just going to step out into the real world. No. Everybody's
They're
at
like,
their fucking
Stay in your
desk.
room.
They're like Father's Day special.
Yeah, like Father's
And
Day
don't look at your
cards.
emails
Yeah.
either because you're gonna get some last minute Father's Day gifts for your
Fucking
dad.
Toyota's probably like having a
Father's
Father's Day
Day
car
sale.
sale. Like you can't
God
escape it
damn it.
anywhere.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah, so not that I think anything changed. Maybe I just got better at dealing with it.
Yeah.
And I had started to come to peace with things more. It's still, I cried on Father's Day. I cry every Father's Day where I miss him and I'm like, what life would be like if he were here. But I'm also able now, which I wasn't before, I'm able to celebrate him those days and be happy. And that took a really long time because it
Yeah.
used to just be a day of sadness, but now it's like it can be
It takes a long time.
a
to get
happy day. Especially my dad died on the 4th, last 4th of July. My boyfriend started calling it National Tom Thompson Day.
Oh.
And he was like posting it on Instagram, and we were having a good time. Like we went out and did his stuff, and like everywhere we'd go, he'd be like, "Cheers to Tom Thompson," and we
That's
like
That's so sweet. I'm actually gonna cry.
Yeah, that's actually weird.
I don't usually cry.
it was, and it made it a better day, and like every.
That's so nice of him. I'm like, shout out
That's just so sweet because,
shout out to her boyfriend real
like,
quick.
Shout out Taylor.
That's really special. Like
Yeah.
of him, like that he, even though he never knew your dad, and how long have you been dating? Like
2 years.
2 years. So like your dad's been dead for much longer than
Yeah.
that. He never even came close to meeting him.
Yeah.
But he like knows how much that means to you, and like
Yeah.
you know, instead of just being like, yeah, maybe you can talk about him whenever,
Yeah.
like he goes the extra mile to like celebrate him.
Yeah.
That is just
Yeah.
I'm really.
That's a prime example of what we
Yeah.
should do as people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
as people who love someone who is grieving.
But for everyone, I feel like that, whether that's your significant other or not, I like one of my closest friends since middle school. Her name's Sandra, and she'll probably listen to this. So hi, Sandra. Her dad passed away too. I text her I remember those things, and I text her. Whereas I think some people would be like, "Oh, I don't want to make it sad for them." No, say something and celebrate and say, I'm thinking of you. I know today might be hard. I hope you can like celebrate him in some way.
Yeah.
And if you have a story about the person, like share that.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I remember when
love-
your dad, haha, and it was,
those things make such a difference.
Yeah, it's so sweet. It really is.
So yeah, Father's Day this year was hard, but we celebrated for sure. We just listened to, like, we were driving, we just listened to his music, and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna talk about him now. And Taylor's like, okay, I'm listening, and I tell the same 50 stories I've told all the time, but he sits there and he listens, and like that's what matters, and that's what's helpful, is just sitting there and listening and asking, like when he asks questions, when someone asks me a question about my dad, I get so fucking excited. I'm like, oh my god, like yeah, like he did this, and I was like, and he loved this, and he did this, and just talking about him and celebrating him. And it doesn't have to be sad. It is sad, but it doesn't have to be sad always, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's of course gonna be sad.
Yeah.
The situation is sad, but
it's a balance.
It's a
Right.
balance.
Not to say it'll be happy, but like,
It's a duality.
yeah,
It is,
Say
it
on this
literally
like
is.
podcast.
living in the love.
Mhm.
I like to lean into that.
Yeah.
Just like leaning into everything he loved and who he was.
Literally, yeah.
Do you have like specific rituals that you like to do for him, like whether it's Father's Day, like
So
writing him a letter or something on his birthday or anything?
So at first his grave was like, I didn't want to go, I couldn't go. It was not something I liked. Once I was able to drive myself, I think it changed. I love going to his grave, and I know that might sound weird to people, but I love getting to go, and I'll grab whatever the hell he liked to eat before, or like I said, he loved freaking Dairy Queen chocolate shakes. I'll go get a chocolate shake, and I'll sit there and I'll talk to him like he was here.
Yeah.
And I'll do that on his birthday. I'll do that whenever I'm at home and I'm close to his grave, because I just feel so close to him in those moments, and that just feels like that's the best way. Like, we're just hanging out. Like, I'm just gonna go hang out with you today and talk to you about everything that's going on, and it makes me feel better. And I listen to his favorite music, and I'll play for him, and I'll be like, I didn't like this song when I was 12, and now it's so good. Oh my gosh. So he loved AC/DC, loved Journey, he loved REO Speedwagon. And he was like, oh my god, he used to make us sit down. He would buy Journey in concert, like on DVD. He'd make all of us girls sit down and fucking watch the whole concert. And he'd be like, I've seen this live like 6 times.
Oh my god, he's like, I saw that. You see that? I was right there.
And he'd be like, hold up, this song's coming on. Like, this is a great song. And he would sing, and he was so funny. Aww. And he just was he was the best. And so doing all those things makes me so happy. And then another thing I like to do on, like, holidays that surround him would be just talking to people that knew him, maybe when he was younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, Father's Day, I went to dinner with my godfather, who is his best friend since he was in, like, 3rd grade. And we talked about him for hours, and I was like, this makes me so happy. Like, I love getting to talk about him, and those are the best ways to celebrate.
Did you say 1st grade?
Yeah, they've been friends for, like, ever. He spoke at his funeral.
Shit, 1st grade.
Yeah. They've been friends for a super long time. And then he was my godfather, and he was really cool. We hung out. I was so happy. I was like, oh, yeah, I love getting to talk.
Yeah. I love hearing stories about what they were like before I was born, you know, like their life, just like their childhood.
Yeah, just
like,
everything.
Yeah.
So I think especially because being 12, I think when you're a teenager is when you kind of form opinions about your parents and like who they were or who they are. Mm-hmm. And you start to see where you agree and where you disagree, and I didn't have that with him, so all I knew of him was, like, being 12 and, like, oh, my dad's, like, the greatest person in the world, and he takes care of me, and we do this together, and I love him. So getting to know him as, like, talking to people and getting to know him how he was in college, when he first had just my sister, or how he was with my mom, or I love getting to learn about stuff I don't know about him, and, like, starting to put together this, like, almost like a puzzle of who he was, because I knew him, but I didn't know everything.
Right.
And so those things make me happy and really grateful, because I think if I wasn't open to speaking about him, there would be all this stuff I didn't know.
True.
Totally.
And it would make me sad if I didn't know those things, and I didn't have a good sense of who he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that talking about, your person gets easier with time, too, because of, like you said, your first year you were just in your room and not able to talk to anyone. And, like, we're both, like, in our first 2 years right now, like, 1 year and, like, 6 months for you, like, 1 and 3 for me. And it's, like, it's still really different. We do this because we have the podcast and everything, but outside of the podcast, even still, I find kind of difficult talking about him all the time. Even if people are like, you can always talk about him. Yeah. I feel like... I said this to my friend the other day. It's kind of fucked up, so maybe I'll edit it out. But I was like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. In this case, I'm beating a dead dad at this point.
It does feel like that.
No, and again, this goes back to, like, okay, yeah, I have people I can talk to, but, like, will I really? Because where is that going to get me? Yeah. Like, just at the end of the day, people don't know how to react. Like, and if they don't really truly know.
Yeah. And disclaimer, don't go out and start forcing your grieving friends to talk about. If they don't want to, they don't want to, but I would love to encourage people to hold space for those that do.
Yeah.
I feel like,
or just, like you said, asking questions too.
They're not going to be offended that you brought up their dead person. Yeah. Do it tastefully, obviously.
Yeah. But I think also, like you said earlier, the best thing is, like, asking questions, because I get excited at the opportunity to, like, that someone cares to know more about them, and like I get to talk about them and not feel weird because I wasn't the one bringing him up. Yeah. Someone asked me a question, which is like, wow. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you for that, Yeah.
But
yeah, also maybe another thing that I want to ask you about is, since you were 12, right? And it's been so long now. It's been, 9 years?
Yes. I'm saying that I can't confirm because I can't quite remember.
Did your mom, like, meet someone new, or they with someone else?
So my mom now has a boyfriend. His name is Larry, and I love him very much. He's part of the family now, and that was definitely a big challenge, especially being young. I think they got together when I was in high school, so it had been a few years since he had passed, but it just made, like, it could have been 50 years. I would have never been ready.
Right.
I would have never been ready to have someone else be with her. Just because, you know, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What the?
It's like your dad's shoes.
Yeah.
And that hurts no matter what.
Yeah. Like the spot at the dinner table was me, her, and him, and now it's me, her, and Larry. And even though Larry's great and I love him, and I mean, I really love him. Like, he's so great to me. He's not my dad. But it made it easier because Larry never tried to be my dad, and he would tell me that. He'd be like, I'm not trying to.
That's good.
And he'd be like, honestly, I don't want to be your dad because you guys are all too much. I'm not, but I am here for you, and, you know, I do love you. And he just would show up for me, and while holding space for the fact that he knew, like, I'm here, but Tom Thompson would have been here.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, I think, to recognize is that, I mean, from that person, in my experience, is like, I want them to verbally tell me that they're not trying to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
They're not trying to replace my person. Because otherwise, it feels kind of, like, intrusive. Like, you're fucking in here right now.
Especially, I think it would have felt weird, too, if I felt like I couldn't talk about my dad around him. I definitely think that would have made a difference. Because that would have been really, really hard if, like, he had acted uncomfortable at, like, hearing anything about my dad, or, I don't know, had given any reaction. But he is always happy to talk about my dad, and so that made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like he was ignoring it, or we were just jumping over something.
He respected that.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
that was really important to me.
True.
But, yeah, it was hard, and now I think, like we were saying before, you know, time just goes on and you get used to it.
Yeah.
And it's like that was life then, and this is life now, and here I am, and this is what we have, and I'm dealing with it, and I'm doing my best with whatever it is.
Right.
Totally.
Even if you hate it, like, it's so hard to come to terms with, and it's not easy at all, and it's not, you know, you don't have to like that person, but it is something you do have to eventually accept, especially if they're going to be in your life for a while.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm dealing with that now, is, like, acceptance. Like, I think I do accept my mom's new partner, but it's also just, like, I do have a lot of resentment there because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Again, like, they're never going to be. And even if they're not trying, even if they, just like Larry, like, I'm not trying to be your dad. I don't want to be, you know. Like, even still, it's still painful because it's just, they're never going to be your person. They're never going to be your dad.
Yeah. But, yeah, like you said, like, having them acknowledge that is huge, too. And also them giving you the space to talk about them openly, which is, like, huge.
Yeah, and he definitely dealt with, like, a lot of my big feelings as a young person and, like, was very gracious, and I think everyone did the best. I had my neighbor growing up, her mom, I ended up, like, staying there a lot when I lived with them for a little bit, almost, when my dad was sick. Her and I were really close because she had lost her dad when she was about 10, and I came over there one day, storming down the street because Larry's at my house, and I was like, you know, F this dude, F this house. Why is this man over here? I'm going to go. I'm leaving. I'm going to the neighbors. I'm so mad. And I, like, walked over there, and Lisa sat me down. Lisa's her name. And she was like, you know, I just really want you to think about, like, you totally okay to be upset. Like, that's totally right. But at the end of the day, like, do you want your mom to be alone the rest of her life? Like, if that avoiding this hurt right now would have your mom be alone the rest of her life, is that really what you want? And I was like, no, I don't want her to be alone the rest of her life. Well, is he nice to her? Yes. Is he nice to you? Yeah, he tries. Well, then, you know, she could be with someone that was nothing like my dad, was horrible to her, and that would be really hard. So I have it like, I had to just accept,
Right.
even though it was like really uncomfortable. I had to be like, oh, okay, like, this is the better end of an already shitty situation.
That's exactly what I was
So-
about to say.
So
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I think that made it a little bit easier after hearing that.
It's a definitely hard pill to swallow, but with that, what she said and everything, it is the better end, and it's like lubing up that hard pill for you to swallow.
It takes time. I don't think you should force yourself, though.
Yeah.
I think that
No,
would be
yeah,
my
you
best
need-
advice, is it not forcing yourself to, you know, be okay with something right away. Because
it
in
takes
order to
time.
get there, I had to be mad at him. I had to not like him. I had to have all these feelings, and I need to process them
Right.
just that way to get to this point now. If I had just been fake right off the bat and I was like, oh, I love it here, like,
Yeah, but if,
life is great.
Yeah,
I
you
love
would've
that there's
never-
new guys here. Like,
it would have led to so much more resentment. I'm
yeah,
sure
later.
on.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have had the good conversations we had about how I felt.
True.
So I think
And it's good to openly air those things out.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
really good that you were
I'm
able to open.
gonna air
one
it
thing about
out.
you, you're gonna air it out.
One thing
Air
about
it
me,
out,
I'm
girl.
gonna air it out. If I got something to say, you're definitely gonna listen.
I love it.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing is that with time, you know, it's really hard to remember everything, and
Ugh, you guys already feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
The trauma eating your brain away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so, like, I can remember instances, especially from him being sick, but a lot of it is gone. Elementary school as a whole, no.
No.
Memory, trauma has washed
Yeah.
that away. Like, it's
Yeah.
gone. That's why, and that's another reason I feel like it's so important to keep talking, to keep
Right.
bringing them up, to learn about him, because if I don't do those things, then he slips through the cracks of my brain,
True.
and
That's so
some things that I wouldn't remember if I hadn't talked and learned about them, or I had brought them up. I want to keep talking,
Yeah.
especially which I know I talk about having kids a lot. I swear, Mom, I'm not having kids anytime soon, but I think about it, you know, losing a parent makes you think
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
All they're going to know about him is what I tell them.
True.
And so I want that. I want them
Yeah.
to feel like they know him. The best compliment I ever
Yeah.
got, a friend in high school told me, you know, I didn't know your dad, but I feel like I knew him by the way your family and you talk about him. And I want everyone to feel that way.
Me too.
I want
Yeah.
everyone to think, oh, I didn't know Tom Thompson, but the
you
way
know.
Tessa talks
Yeah.
about him, he sounds like he was a great, awesome, loving person.
I mean, I already feel that from this podcast, and obviously from you too. I definitely feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you about the kids thing. I'm like, I don't want kids. Like, and I don't want to think about it. But, like, I do think about a lot, like, my future family. Like, of course, I want my kids to, like, know her.
Yeah.
And, like, even if I know I'm thinking something that's, like, 10 or more years from now, like, I'm still thinking about it right now because I'm going to be her one day.
Yeah. And it's important.
And, like, if I do have kids, like, I want them to know everything about her. Like, I want them, like, to know her by name and, like, and be able to, like, talk to her. Like,
Yeah.
that's something that I know that my mom, like, really would have been just the best grandma ever.
Yeah.
And she really wanted to be. Like, that was just, like, one of her milestones that she couldn't wait for. And, like, I want my kids to know her really well because I want to give her that.
Right.
Yeah.
And because she means so much to you, and
Yeah.
your kids are going to mean so much to you,
Yeah.
and they need to come to terms with that
Exactly.
they're both, like, very
Yeah.
important to your
Like,
life.
I didn't know her mom super well. Like, she died when I was about 10. And we also, like, lived away from her, so I didn't get to see her that often. But, like, even after she passed away, you know, after I turned 10, like, my mom still talked about her all the time. Like, I know
Yeah.
how they were and, like, how she grew up and stuff.
Yeah.
And I could tell, like, a
And
good
that's
amount
really
of
special.
stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really special to, like, get to know someone through stories, even, you know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even
But
if-
then, on the other hand, like,
Yeah.
again, like, you don't want to forget a damn thing. I want to be able to have 1,000 stories, but at the end of the day, I only remember a couple, like, from my grandma, so I want to have, like, 1,000 more to give my kids that.
Yeah. And I think this also goes into what you were saying, like, documenting what you know or documenting your life is, like, so you are, like, not forgetting these things, too. Like, maybe you keep, whether that's keeping a journal about your life or about them, too, is, like, every single thing you could remember, you write it down so that you're,
That's
like...
what I do.
Yeah.
I have a notes that I share with my sister, and, like, anytime... anything reminds me of her, like, I'm writing it down. Whether it's literally, like, peach milkshake from Chick-fil-A. Like, my mom loved that. Like, she would literally text me, like, a photo, like, when she got the peach shake, like, when it came out. Because she loved the peach shake from there. And so even if it's something literally as simple as that, I'll be reminded. Like, on any day, if someone's like, oh, tell me something about your mom. Like, you know, I kind of have to...
it in
I'm
there.
like, God, I don't know. But, like, when it just comes and then I'm able to write it down, I feel like I have... a long list of things because I can't just like go through my file of memories and take one out. Like I have to experience the memory of her by something like triggering me thinking about her, and then I'm writing it down from there. That's how I'm dealing with it now, because like and sometimes I'm just like sitting in the car or like just sitting anywhere and I'm just like, oh my god, my memories are fleeting. Like I can't remember anything. And so it's important for me to write down absolutely anything I even remember, even if it's as small as a peach shake. My kids are going to know she likes peach shakes. My kids are going to know she likes pie. Like
the little things become the big things, I feel like. It's so stupid. Like, I've never once during his life was I, like, all the fucking stupid Dairy Queen trips. And, I mean, we went very often. Never was I like, oh, this is so important. Like, this is going to be such an important part of my life. If anyone got me a fucking chocolate milkshake from Dairy, I would probably cry. I'd be like, oh my god, my dad loved this.
How'd you know?
How did you know? And it's something I do regularly to feel connected to him. So even if it's little or it's small, I think it's important. It's all you have.
It's true.
But
I think that's everything, right? Are we ready to...
Any other final thoughts?
Any other things you want to tell our viewers? Any, maybe, final thoughts? Any other...
Oh, I have a good last question. If you could talk to your 12-year-old self or even, like, your 15-year-old self, like, would you say anything to her?
My 12-year-old self, I would tell her life is going to go on, and it's not going to hurt this badly forever. It's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt that badly, and the only way out is through. So stop avoiding grieving and stop avoiding your feelings and just start going through how you feel and letting yourself be. And I think that's what I would tell her. And then my 15-year-old self, I would tell her that just to be easy on herself. Too hard. She was too hard on herself. She needs to give herself some grace and forgiveness and hang out with her family some more.
That is so beautiful.
That was perfect.
That was such a beautiful ending. It does remind me of in RuPaul's Drag Race when they were like, "What would you tell?" They like bring up a picture of their past selves, like before they did drag and everything. They're like, "What would you tell that child?" And it's always like so emotional. I mean that was just like sorry to have brought up RuPaul's Drag Race.
No, we
love it. All right.
But
thanks again.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Honestly, it was amazing.
Love spilling the tea. It's too fun.
Thank you guys for being here as well.
Thank both of you and all the 12-year-olds listening. And how badly they need you guys. How badly I need to listen to this podcast every week.
So
this is our comeback
episode. We'll be seeing a lot more of you guys soon, and we're really excited.
We have a couple more guests coming too, so that's exciting. New things coming for you guys, so stay tuned for that. Bye guys.
Bye.
Love you.
I'm touching my hair that and look how red I am. Ugh.